Hello friends, today we are going to begin with a new topic which is commercial bank and the functions of commercial banks and how commercial bank is playing such an important role in our economy by regulating money market. Not only it's playing its role in money market, it's also playing its very important role in the capital market as well. So giving to start with the commercial bank, what is commercial bank? A commercial bank is a type of financial institution that accepts deposits, offers checking account services, makes various loans, and offers basic financial products like certificates of deposits and saving accounts to individuals and small businesses. A commercial bank is a place where most people do their banking as opposed to an investment banking. So we know that the commercial bank is the primary function of commercial bank is accepting the deposits and lending loans. So while lending loans, we can see that in today's scenario, each and everyone needs some kind of financial assistance to help their business grow, to help themselves, their family. Even for small functions like marriages, they are taking loans. So there are a lot of things, times that when a person requires a loan. So when they have such kind of thing in their mind, they can obviously go for commercial bank to take the help. What does commercial bank do? They normally charge a small rate of interest on the loans, and when you deposit your money in the form of saving accounts, they give you certain amount of interest on your deposits. So how commercial bank is able to do that? Commercial bank is basically investing that money, whatever you are depositing. So we may say that a whole lot of account, there are a lot many accounts in the bank. There are a lot many people who are contributing small savings of their savings in the bank, and that is amounting to a huge amount of money, and that huge amount of money is being invested by commercial banks in the portfolios like asset like mutual funds, like government bonds, government schemes, and share market, derivative markets. Proportionately they are investing it, and out of that money they are making a huge amount of capital. By investing that capital, they are making a huge amount of money, and out of that money or the surpluses that they are making, they are just distributing that amount of the small amount of money to the depositors in the form of interest. So having understood this, we can come on to the structure of commercial banks. Now we can see on your screen that commercial bank is divided into scheduled commercial banks and non-scheduled commercial banks. Scheduled commercial banks are further divided into private sector banks, public sector banks, foreign sector banks. Public sector banks are comprising of the SBI and its subsidiaries, and other nationalized banks are making other form of public sector banks. In private sector banks, there are many private sector banks. They are working in India like ICI, IDBI. There are foreign sector banks who are operating their business in India, but their place of origin is somewhere else, like Barclays Bank, like now moving on to the functions of commercial bank. The first and very important function is primary function. The primary function comprises of accepting deposits. The bank takes deposits in the form of savings, current and fixed deposits. The surplus balance collected from the firm and the individuals are lent to the temporary required commercial transaction. For example, businessman, joint stock company, or the other needy business firms or business entities, they require money, so they are given to them on an interest which is higher than the interest that banks are providing on the savings account or fixed deposits. So from that money, that is making a good avenue for revenue of the banks. Second is it provides loans and advances. Yes, another critical function of this bank is to offer loans and advances to the entrepreneurs and business people and collect interest. For every bank, it is the primary source of making profit. In this process, a bank retains a small number of deposits as a reserve and offers the remaining amount to the borrower in demand loans, overdraft, cash credit, and short-run loans, etc. Next function is credit cash. When a customer is provided with a credit or loan, they are not provided with liquid cash. First, a bank account is opened for the customer and then the money is transferred to the account. This process allows the bank to create a money. Now coming on to the secondary functions, the first function under this category is discounting bill of exchange. What is bill of exchange? We all know that it is a written agreement acknowledging the amount of money to be paid against the goods purchased at a given point of time in future. The amount can also be cleared before the quoted time through a discounting method of commercial bank. Then it gives overdraft facility. What is overdraft? We all know that it is an advance given to customer by keeping the current account to overdraw up to the given limit. Yes. The next function is purchasing and selling of the securities. The banks offer its customer the facility of selling and buying the securities also. Then it provides locker facility. Bank provides a locker facility to customers to keep their value, belongings and documents safely. Bank charges a minimum of an annual fee for this service. Next function is paying and gathering the credit. It uses different instruments like promissory notes, checks, bill of exchange for this purpose, for this function. Now, coming on to the lead bank scheme. What is lead bank scheme? The lead bank scheme was introduced in 1969 to guide commercial, regional, rural and cooperatives to improve their facilities in the rural areas and deliver the effective services. The Reserve Bank of India, on the basis of this study groups under the chairmanship of Professor D.R. Gadgil and a committee of bankers headed by F.K.F. Nariman, evolved the lead bank scheme. What is lead bank scheme? Under this, a district credit plan combined with the government scheme is prepared and monitored by the lead bank. The effectiveness of the lead bank scheme depends on the dynamism of the district collectors and the lead district managers that are called LDMs. What was the aim of this scheme? The aim of this scheme was to provide adequate banking and credit in rural areas through an service area approach, with one bank assigned for one area. The objective of the lead bank schemes were first to identify unbanked and underbanked centers in district and to evaluate their physiographic, agroclimatic and socio-economic conditions through economic survey. Second, to help in removing regional imbalances through appropriate credit deployment. Next, to extend banking facilities to unbanked areas, to estimate credit gaps in various sectors of an economy of a district and prepare a credit plan accordingly. The another one was to identify economically viable and technically feasible schemes. Next was to effect structural and procedural changes in banking sector. Next, to develop cooperation amongst financial and non-financial institutions in overall development of the districts. Next was to serve as a clearinghouse for discussion of problems arising out of financial priority sectors. So we can see that those were the objectives of the lead bank schemes for which the lead bank schemes was created, keeping these objectives into mind, and accordingly there were many plans and policies framed by the banks to look after those objectives. Next, we come on to the regional rural banks. Regional rural banks, we popularly know it as RRBs. The RRBs are Indian scheduled commercial banks. We can also popularly say that those are government banks operating at regional level in different states of India. They had been created with a view of serving primarily the rural areas of India with basic banking and financial services. However, RRBs may have branches set up for urban operations and their areas of operations may include urban areas too. Next, the area of operations of RRB is limited to the area as notified by Government of India, covering one and more districts in the state. RRBs also perform a variety of different functions. RRBs perform various functions under following heads. First is providing banking facilities to rural and semi-urban areas. Next, carrying out government operations like disbursement of wages of Manrega's workers, distribution of pensions, etc. Providing para-banking facilities like locker facilities, debit and credit cards, mobile banking, internet banking, UPI-based transactions, etc. Next is it is helping small financial banks also. In the rural areas, most of the cases we can see, there are many examples. Then what is the organizational structure of regional rural banks? The organizational structure of RRBs varies from branch to branch and depends upon the nature and size of business done by the branch. The head office of an RRB normally had 3 to 9 departments. The following is the decisions making hierarchy of officials in regional rural banks. First one is board of directors. Under them comes the chairman and managing director. Under them comes the general manager, and under them assistant general managers. Then followed by regional managers. We can see that regional managers are taking very important decisions at the ground levels. Then there is senior manager, then officer, then office assistants, then office attendants. This is the hierarchy, and this hierarchy has been doing good till now for regional rural banks, though there are limitations that can be discussed later on. The functions of RRBs are as follows. We can see the RRBs have been set up with a main objective of looking after the rural banking services. So under that, the first important function is granting of loans and advance to small and marginal farmers and agriculture laborers, whether individually or in groups, and to cooperative societies, agriculture processing societies, cooperative farming societies, primarily for agricultural purpose or for agriculture operations and other related purposes. The second function is granting of loans and advances to the people who need it. Especially in the rural areas, we can see that not many of the commercial banks are so much approachable. So there you can see the advances to artisans, small entrepreneurs, small farmers, and engaged in trade, commerce, industry and other productive activities within its area of cooperation. And last important function, accepting deposits. They are also accepting deposits there. Now we move on to the recommendations of important committees on bank finance. First and very important committee was Dahejia Committee Report. National Credit Council constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Shri V.T. Dahejia in 1968 to determine the extent to which credit needs of industry and trade are likely to be inflated and how such trends could be checked, and to go into establishing some norms for lending operations by commercial banks. The committee was of the opinion that there was also a tendency to divert short-term credit for long-term assets. Although committee was of the opinion that it was difficult to evolve norms for lending to industrial concerns, the committee recommended that the banks should finance industry on the basis of study of borrowers, total operations rather than security basis alone. The committee further recommended that the total credit requirement of the borrowers should be segregated into hardcore and short-term components. The hardcore components, which should represent the minimum level of inventories which the industry was required to hold for maintaining a given level of production, should be put on a formal term loan basis and subject to repayment schedules. The committee was also of the opinion that generally a customer should be required to confine his dealings to one bank only. So we can see that those were the important attributes of the committee which played an important role in the culmination of the banking facilities what it is now, especially in the field of industries. Next was the Tandon Committee report. Reserve Bank of India set up a committee under the chairmanship of Shri P. L. Tandon in July 1974. The term of reference of the committee were: first, to suggest guidelines to commercial banks to follow up and supervise credit from the point of view of ensuring proper end use of funds and keeping a watch on the safety of advances. Next was to suggest the type of operation data and other information that may be obtained by banks periodically from the borrowers and by the Reserve Bank of India from leading banks. Next was to make suggestion for prescribing inventory norms for the different industries, both in the private and public sectors, and indicating the broad criteria for deviating from these norms. Next, to make recommendations regarding resource for financing the minimum working capital requirements. Next was to suggest criteria regarding the satisfactory capital structure and sound financial basis in relation to borrowings. And last one was to make recommendation as to whether the existing pattern of financing working capital requirements by cash, credit, overdraft system, etc. was required to be modified. If so, to suggest suitable modifications. So we can see that the Tandon Committee was a very important committee in terms of the financial reforms that occurred in the banking sector. The committee gave certain very important opinions, and those opinions were: first, the bank credit is extended on the amount of security available and not according to the level of operations of the customers. Second, bank credit, instead of being taken as a supplementary to other sources of finance, is treated as the first source of finance. Although the committee recommended the continuation of the existing cash credit system, it suggested certain modification as to control the bank finance. The bank should get the information regarding the operational plans of the customers in advance so as to carry a realistic appraisal of such plans. And the banks should also know the end use of bank credit so that the finances are used only for the purpose of which they are lent. That was very important. The recommendation of the committee regarding the lending norms have been suggested under three alternatives. According to the first method, the borrower will have to contribute a minimum of 25% of the working capital gap from long-term funds, that is own funds and term borrowings. This will give a minimum current ratio of 1.17:1. Under the second method, that borrower will have to provide a minimum of 25% of total current assets from long-term funds. This will give a minimum current ratio of 1.33:1. In the third method, the borrower's contribution from long-term funds will be to the extent of the entire core current assets and a minimum of 25% of the balance current assets, thus strengthening the current ratio further. Now, moving on to the very next important committee recommendation on bank was Marathe's committee report. The Reserve Bank of India in 1982 appointed a committee under the chairmanship of Marathe to review the working of credit authorization schemes (CAS) and suggest measures for giving meaningful directions to the credit management functions of the Reserve Bank. The recommendation of the committee have been accepted by the Reserve Bank of India and with minor modifications. The principal recommendations of the Marathe committee include: first, the committee has declared the third method of lending as suggested by the Tandon committee to be dropped. Hence, in future, the bank would provide credit for working capital according to the second method of lending. The second important recommendation it gave was the committee has suggested the introduction of the fast track scheme to improve the quality of the credit appraisal in the banks. It recommended that commercial banks can release without prior approval of the Reserve Bank of India by 50% of the additional credit required by the borrowers and 75% in case of export-oriented manufacturing units where the following requirements are fulfilled. The estimated projections in regards to production sales, chargeable current assets, other current assets, current liabilities, other than bank borrowings and net working capital are reasonable in terms of past trends and assumptions regarding most likely trends during the future project period was also recommended by the committee. The next recommendation was the classification of assets and liabilities as current and non-current is in conformity with the guidelines issued by Reserve Bank of India. The project current ratio should not be below 1.33:1. That was also one of the important recommendations. The borrower has been submitting quarterly information and operating statements Form 1, 2 and 3 from the past 6 months within the prescribed times and undertakes to do same in the future also. The borrower should undertake to submit to the bank his annual account regularly and promptly. Further, the bank is required to review the borrower's facilities at least once in a year, even if the borrower does not need enhancement of credit facilities. So, these were some of the very important recommendations that were given by these committees. Those were the very important committees that were the landmarks in the bank reform in commercial banking for the commercial banks in India. So with the references of additional reading I'm giving you at the end of the video, you can go through it and make a note of this, that those were the landmarks when the committees were formed, and every committee recommended certain very important aspects which improved the commercial banking in certain ways. Some committees were focused on industrial aspects, some were focused on the general public, and with the recommendation that were followed, we could see that with every recommendation that they were given by these committees helped in improvement of the commercial banking services. So this is all in this video for now. Thank you. Please stay tuned for the upcoming videos. Thank you.